responses. Missing both the shoes with some broken teeth responses. Bloody stained glass like busted in pieces on the ground.
Welcome to the Fallon Forum today. Maddie here. We want to thank our organizational sponsors, the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility, and the Great March for Climate Action for helping to make this program possible. We'd also like to thank the Fallon Forum business partners and encourage you to patronize them. Thanks to Gateway Market and Cafe, located at 20th and Woodland on the edge of downtown in the Sherman Hill neighborhood. Gateway's grocery section showcases many products from local farms and producers. Gateway is also a great place for breakfast, lunch, and supper and offers a fantastic catering service as well. Thanks also to Hawk Restaurant at East 5th and Walnut in Des Moines East Village. At Hawk, 95% of the food served comes from Iowa farms and Iowa producers. Thanks also to Ritual Cafe at 13th and Locust in downtown Des Moines. Ritual is a great place for coffee, tea, smoothies, a full vegetarian menu, and music on the weekends. And finally, thanks to Diana's Wedding Cakes in Newton, serving the greater Des Moines Metro with customized cakes, cupcakes, cookies, and more. I am guest hosting today's edition of the Fallon Forum, and we'll be talking with guest Faith Megley first about fracking, and then later I'll be talking with Ron Yarnell discussing the recent election last week. So Faith, I'll go ahead and welcome you to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am well. First, I want to talk about the week of action at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, sure. So the Beyond Extreme Energy Week of Actions was sort of the kind of touted as like the finale of the Great March for Climate Action. We arrived in D.C. and we didn't just want to show up in D.C. and say, "Yay, we did it," and go home. There was really a need for an action component, and so lots of climate marchers worked with people from all over the place to make BXC happen. And the purpose. Well, the main target of the Week of Actions was the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and every day for the entire week there were blockades at the four entrances of FERC, and I think the actions were very successful, especially on the last day where a lockdown blockade occurred in front of the parking garage, and we successfully shut down all of the entrances for several hours rather than just a half an hour at a time.
Real quick, I think we'll take a step back. Can you give me a general overview of natural gas and fracking for the viewers who, maybe who are just now finally paying attention to this issue, why they're a problem?
Yes. So I think a big issue that we're facing right now is the Obama administration and others are touting natural gas as a clean energy source, and it's not. It is a fossil fuel just like coal, and it has emissions just like coal, and it's a problem. And the big issue with natural gas, which is a nicer sounding name for methane, is that it leaks a lot. And it's also, there's so much of it that's coming out of the shale at the moment that companies are burning off a lot of it without even using it directly out of the well. They're burning it off because they just don't have the capacity for it all, and that's just getting put out in the atmosphere. And in addition, the process of getting natural gas out of the shale is called hydraulic fracturing, or more commonly known as fracking. And that is an extremely damaging process to the environment and surrounding communities. Fracking is a kind of a more advanced technology of drilling, where rather than just drilling a vertical well downwards, it goes much deeper down into the shale and then turns horizontal once it gets into the shale. And to release the natural gas, a combination of water, chemicals, and frac sand, which is silica sand, are sent down through the wells, and the high pressure, which sort of ruptures the shale and creates cracks, and then the silica sand holds open the cracks, and then all of this, the mixture of water and chemicals, are drawn back up out of the well, and then the methane starts leaking out of the cracks and coming up the well. And so this process has been known to cause small earthquakes in areas that don't usually experience earthquakes. That mixture of water and chemicals that I mentioned, once it comes back up out of the well, it has to be put somewhere. It has to be disposed of. And the chemicals make this mixture very toxic and radioactive in some cases. And that's when you just dump that into a landfill or put it in a pond somewhere, then that starts to have a negative effect on the environment. And then the silica sand I mentioned has its own mining process. The sand has to be mined, and silica sand is extremely dangerous. You don't want that stuff getting in your lungs. It can kill you. And so the frac sand mining itself actually has an individual impact on other communities where the sand isn't handled well enough. It escapes, gets out into the community. People start breathing it. They start getting sick. So the whole process of hydraulic fracturing is dangerous from start to finish.
I have an article in front of me, actually. It was published in USA Today back in September, so it's not very new, but it's talking about some of the health hazards for people living near natural gas wells. Apparently, these people were found to be more than twice as likely to report upper respiratory and skin problems than those who lived further away. And those distances are less than a kilometer for those who experience these symptoms, and then those about 2 kilometers or more away don't have barely any symptoms. Mm-hmm. Have you heard much about that?
Yes, I've heard a little bit about it. And there's a lot of debate going on right now whether or not the natural gas actually leaks out of the wells and gets into people's drinking well water, which is how you get to those images where people can set their tap water on fire. And the Associated Press came out with a report within this last year that confirmed that in the cases of methane creeping, sort of, if you want to think of it as that way, had been confirmed in different states where fracking occurs. And so in my eyes, the debate about that is over, and people who are still making that argument either aren't up to date or they're trying to push, false positives of this industry.
So Faith, what's next for you with working on this issue?
For me, now that the Climate March is over and Beyond Extreme Energy is over, I am back at home in New York, and New York very wisely has a moratorium on fracking at the moment. I surely hope that it soon becomes an all-out ban, but I'm not really convinced with Governor Cuomo's leadership yet. We'll see. He's been reelected, and hopefully he makes the right choice. New York, fortunately, does have home rule, which was determined due to a tiny little town in Tompkins County, Dryden, which came out with a fracking ban within its town limits. And it was brought to the courts by fracking companies, of course. And so far, it's upheld in New York's highest court. And it's the determination is that New Yorkers have home rule. So it looks like even if fracking were to move forward in New York, communities would be able to protect themselves from it. Anyways, now that I'm back in New York, I'm working on a specific project that's near my home and has made my community that I grew up in a frontline community. And it is a methane and liquefied petroleum gas storage project on the shores of Seneca Lake, which is the largest of the 11 Finger Lakes. And I grew up in Geneva on the north end of the lake. And that may not sound like it's tied into fracking initially, but it absolutely is, because even though New York has a moratorium on fracking, it's experiencing a problem where fracking infrastructure is infiltrating the state. So all across the state, we have this sort of web of infrastructure that includes gas storage, such as what I'm facing on Seneca Lake, which is, taking fracked gas from Pennsylvania and that has come out of Pennsylvania and Ohio and storing it. And then there's compressor stations to handle that gas. There's pipelines to transport that gas. Then there's, of course, lots of truck and train traffic mixed in with the pipelines. And then there's also disposal and treatment facilities. So, what I was mentioning earlier about disposing of that frack water, and where does that have to go? A lot of that nasty frack water from Pennsylvania and Ohio is coming to New York to be dumped. And so, again, even though New York doesn't allow fracking within its borders, I feel that my state has been fracked, and that's why I kind of see the Seneca Lake issue that I'm working on now as a part of a bigger problem.
Well, thank you, Faith, so much for joining us today. I just want to ask real quick if there's anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up.
I just really want to encourage anyone who's listening, if they've been wondering, if if they've been wondering how to get involved and if they should be getting involved, I just want to encourage them that, yes, absolutely, now is the time to stand up and do this. I mean, climate change is proven. It is a huge issue, and we've already gone past certain tipping points, and our future right now is not looking very pretty. But we all, fortunately, as human beings, we have the power to make a difference in our world, and now is the time to step up and go further. So, yeah, please, we need you. If you're out there wondering about what you should do, we need you in the movement.
Well, thank you, Faith, so much for giving me your time today, and continue to do good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too.
And now we're moving on to Ron Yarnell talking about the recent elections. Hopefully this works because we've been having trouble. Ron, are you there?
Yeah, Maddie, how you doing?
Well, I'm all right. I'm a little out of my element, but we're going to make it work.
Okay, and Ed is disconnected from reality or something at this point, or?
Yeah, he's not even paying attention, I don't think. I'm not sure what he's doing, honestly. He didn't tell me.
Wow, we can have all kinds of fun on this show then.
Oh, yes, I was thinking of a total takeover. Maybe even change the name.
That's right. Maddie's Moment. How's that?
There we go, Maddie's Moment.
Right.
I'll title the show like that on YouTube.
Yeah.
So Ed wanted me to talk to you, and I'm going to be honest, I'm reading from notes. He wanted me to talk to you about the elections last week and why you think it went so badly for Democrats.
Yeah, it's not terribly original. I think it went bad because the Democrats scattered all over the place. There was no coherent message. There was no positive message. And they basically gave the Republicans the initiative. And the Republican initiative was Democrats are evil. Just kind of handed to them. I think they did poorly by not circling the wagons around the president, Barack Obama. They seem to want to distance themselves from the president, which is a bad thing because he's a winner. He's a black guy who got himself elected president of the United States twice. The last time he got it done with 8% unemployment, which is a feat unmatched since FDR. But Democrats here, there, and various places decided they wanted to distance themselves from Obama, and they decided they wanted to go with a 13% approval rating Congress rather than a president who admittedly is in the 40s, but that's a lot more than 13%, isn't it? And then I think also President Obama really didn't show too good. Since he's gotten reelected, his political leadership has been off, and I don't think that's been helpful either. So.
I found an article from the New York Times that was published, I think it was yesterday, where President Obama is quoted as saying that it's basically his fault that the Democrats failed so badly, a failure in politics because they had not succeeded in effectively selling the benefits of his policies to the American people, as he said it.
Well, and that dates back to the healthcare reform debate of a few years ago, which was basically, the Republicans just basically stood outside and kind of said, no matter what you come up with, we're going to reject it. So they were outside of the debate. But the debate really was between Democrats of various persuasions and positions, and a lot of those Democrats wanted to tack towards more Republican plan, and actually that's what we wound up with. As much as they scream about Obamacare, it's the Republican health care plan. All right, it's not a liberal plan. It's not a radical plan. It's the plan that the Republicans came up with a few years ago when Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were trying to get health care reform passed. And it's Romney care and it's all kinds of things, but it's not. It doesn't have its genesis with Barack Obama. And in that debate, that argument, we saw a very fractured Democratic Party, and that party has not healed. It has continued to be fractured. I think a lot of Democratic candidates thought that they'd best serve themselves if they ran as close to Republicans as possible. And I think Harry Truman had an expression: when a Republican runs against a Republican, the Republican will win every time. that's what happened. The Republicans also had an advantage in that they weren't directly running against Barack Obama, because no matter what they say, Maddie, no matter what you hear, Barack Obama is a very popular fellow. All right, when he says, I want you to vote for me, people vote for him. There's a hardcore that hate the president. There's like 30% that think he's spawn of Satan or something, or spawn of Osama bin Laden or something. But most Americans, they like him, and they wanted him to succeed. They wanted him to have a very successful presidency. So the Republicans knocked themselves out in 2 elections trying to beat him. So what they did basically is outflank him and go after skittish Democrats instead.
Ed proposed the idea that the Democratic Party has run its course and needs to be replaced. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because the Democratic Party is, they're. I was talking about this with a friend of mine, and he kind of puts it like this. The Republican Party is the Tea Party. The Democratic Party is the Republican Party. And then there's no party for 90% of the rest of us. We're just kind of like disenfranchised. There isn't, if you were, I don't know how much TV you watch, but if you watch any amount of TV before the election, you saw the campaigns. Did you see anyone raise the issue of like what to do about poor folks, about homeless folks?
No, not this time around, no.
About unemployed folks, about...
I didn't see any issues being brought up, actually. I didn't really see much of anybody campaigning on issues. No,
basically it was, my opponent is in league with the devil. I am like you, so you should vote for me.
Yes, that's exactly what I saw.
So that being the message, the Republicans do that much more successfully than the Democrats. Both parties try that. They both failed. They both tried to pander to a jaded middle class. And the Republicans came out. I'm amazed. That they managed to do that. I was surprised, but not really, because in driving around Iowa, I do a lot of driving around Iowa. I saw a lot of Republican signage, saw a lot of Branstad signs, saw a lot of Johnny Ernst signs, Dave Young signs. I didn't really see all that many Democratic signs. I don't know. It was almost kind of like the Democrats conceded in Iowa months before the election actually took place. I'm kind of surprised about that. I'm kind of surprised that Bruce Braley didn't run a more robust campaign. I don't know what was that. And Jack Hatch. I don't even...
I was also surprised at that Jack Hatch wasn't... I didn't hear much about him at all. I don't pursue that information regularly, but... he was invisible.
It's like if you're running a campaign, the job you have is not getting people to pursue you, but you have to pursue people. You have to be in Maddie Kane's face, and you have to be in Ron Yarnell's face. And if you're not, it's not going to end well for you. And the Democrats really had a lackluster campaign. I don't know why. I have no answers for that. The Republicans basically ran on the campaign. The most I can make out of it is Obama is bad, Democrats are evil. Let's go back maybe to 2000 through 2008 because those were the salad days. And I remember that period of time. They weren't the salad days. They were the times of war and economic catastrophe. So, but I guess people want that. Maybe, I don't know.
Ed had also just suggested the possibility that Republicans will be unable to deliver anything to the electorate, and they might open up more possibilities for Democrats in 2016.
Well, they didn't promise anything. They didn't promise anything positive. They made noises about repealing Obamacare, but that's not going to happen because Obama has the veto pen for the next couple of years. And then 2016, the Republicans are going to have to come up with a candidate who's forward-looking, and that would be anyone's guess who in the Republican Party is forward-looking and positive. I can't think of a candidate. When some people talk Chris Christie, but he's a governor of a Northeast liberal state, and I think that Republicans are scared of having another Romney on their hands, except with a more bully boy personality. And I have no idea who the Republicans have that would appeal to the country as a whole.
How would you feel about taking a comment from Frank real quick?
Oh, my friend Frank, why not?
Frank, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Ron, who would you suggest the Democrats are going to put forward that's forward-linking? I mean, I hope you're not going to suggest Hillary because
I don't have to, because she's probably running and she's probably going to win.
Well, yeah, but she certainly wouldn't be having a forward-looking agenda, because she's going to be trying to look back at the economy of the 90s.
I agree with you, Frank, but it doesn't matter because she's going to run and she's going to win.
Well, let me ask you this. You talk about a rift in the Republican Party. Do you think you guys might have a rift over in the Democratic Party? I mean,
Frank, you haven't been listening to me. There's more than a rift. The Democratic Party is shattered. It's like a plate that was dropped on the ground. People are running around like screaming memes every which way. That's how come the Republicans won this time around.
Well, you're partially right, but listen, Harry Reid apparently has about 360 Congress-passed bills on his desk that he sheltered Obama from having to veto, and it actually hurt some of his candidates like Pryor in Arkansas, Hagan in North Carolina, because they wanted to separate themselves from the president, and taking a vote on them bills might have helped separate themselves.
So that was the mistake, Frank. They separated themselves from Obama. Obama is a winner. Okay?
They got tied to Obama.
Okay, but that's a good thing, Frank. Obama is a winner. If you stick with the president, you're going to win. This is a black guy who got himself elected twice, got himself elected and reelected to the presidency.
Do you think he'd be elected again tomorrow?
If he was in a direct campaign, I wouldn't put it past him. When he's campaigning for his situation, he's unbeatable, Frank. He's a very people like Obama.
Yes, but Ron, you got to realize something.
Especially, Frank, if you're going to have a Republican candidate who is going to, when he's not insulting women, he's insulting half of the people in the country for being freeloaders.
There's two things going on here, Ron. If he pulls the trigger on this immigration thing, it's going to catapult this country into civil war. That's the first thing. The second thing is he postponed most of the mandates on this health care bill until after this 2014 election. Now, if this society should dump 100 million people from the employer mandate system, and the companies opt to take the penalty over covering their employees' insurance, and you get 100 people dumped on the system, he postponed all of this until after the election. What happens when that crap hits the fan?
That's a hypothetical, and I don't know anything about it, Frank. I can't tell you. I can't argue a hypothetical.
Well, you've seen what happened when it dumped 5 to 10 million of the private sector on the
Frank,
made their rates go up.
Here's the deal, okay? You got to realize this. The private sector doesn't want to do health insurance anymore. It's cost prohibitive. It's been escalating for 20 years. They want to get out of it. They want to cease giving any benefits of all to their employees. They don't really care. They'll use Obamacare as an excuse, but the bottom line is private industry, private business, they don't want to be in the benefits package provider scene anymore. They don't want to do that. They want the cheapest employees they can get, and they want to cut costs any way they can.
Then why did Obama embrace something that he ran against? He was running for single-payer health care system. Hillary was campaigning for a mandate.
I'd have to go back and look like that. Probably because when he became president, he looked at the Democratic Party and realized that was the best he could get out of the Democratic Party. Frank, I'm with you on this point. I never liked the Affordable Care Act because it amounts to one big bribe to the insurance industry. I don't know why I would want to bribe the insurance industry, but that was the deal. It was a Republican plan, so you know there was something funky in it. Obama decided to push it through, and it got through. I think if the Republicans go after it, they try to dismantle it, they're going to see themselves up to their necks real fast in problems. You can't tell people once they got a guarantee that I'm blocking right now a previous condition. When you say on one hand, when you promise people that won't matter anymore, and then you tell people, yeah, it does matter, and if you have a previous health care condition, you won't be insured. You can't pull those kind of promises away from people. They could get angry. All right, you can't tell people in a dubious economy that they can't keep their kids on insurance until they're 26 when you promised that would happen. So I think that if the Republicans tried to dismantle Obamacare, they're going to face their own backlash. You know?
Frank, I've put you on hold. I want to thank you for calling in. It is time to wrap up the show. Ron, I want to thank you too. Real quick, let's talk about baseball, just because you and Ed always talk about baseball, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a tradition now.
Yeah.
So, did you watch the World Series?
Yes, I'm a Royals fan.
Okay, so you were disappointed.
I was looking for one of those great moments in baseball history. And this is what I'll say. The Giants won 3 World Series in the last 5 years, and that they won this one, that's great for the Giants. But if the Royals won, it would have been great for baseball.
You know, I don't even watch baseball.
Well, it's not too late, Maddie.
It's not too late. You know, I used to go to baseball games a lot as a kid, but I enjoyed it because it was with my dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I never got into it. But cool. So thank you so much for calling in and chatting with me, Ron.
You're young, Maddie. You have plenty of time to develop new and interesting things to follow.
There we go.
There you go.
Alrighty. Well, you have a good day. We will talk to you later.
All right. Thanks a lot, Maddie. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Ron. I want to thank you all for joining the Fallon Forum today. If you are listening on KHOI or KPVL, this is a pre-recorded show. If you want to watch live, tune into the Fallon Forum, live Monday through Thursday from 6 to 6:30 p.m. Central Time, online at www.fallonforum.com. If you're watching live, you can call in at 855-244-0077 to add your voice to the dialogue. Real quick, we'd like to thank our business sponsors, including Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, located in the heart of Beaverdale, serving lunch and supper daily, breakfast on Sunday, and featuring Des Moines' first ever rooftop dining. Thanks also to Corazon Coffee Roasters, located in Valley Junction and specializing in fair trade coffee and fair trade tea. And thanks again to our organizational sponsors, the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility, and the Great March for Climate Action for helping to make this program possible. If you're listening on KHOI or KPVL, we will be right back with segment 2 of the show.